years did you serve this book?
We are live.
January of '92, which was halfway through a biennial cycle. So I was appointed to replace someone died. And then I was elected 5 times, so total 11, 92 to 2002.
Great.
Back to dinosaurs.
Welcome back to Senate Education. We are looking at S-191, an act relating to New American Advancement Grant applicants. Mr. Little, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'm Little here from Vermont Student Assistance Corporation. And I think the committee has in front of it something I sent over yesterday afternoon, which is into the weeds of legislative language for sure.
And this is, just so I have, this is what's,
Yes.
this is VSAC.
And this relates to residency. And why is residency important? Well, it's important both for students and those who want to become students. And it's important for the institutions, particularly the public institutions in Vermont, and that carries over to the VSAC. Because public institutions have in-state tuition for Vermont residents and out-of-state tuition for those who aren't. And likewise, the VSAC grants both the incentive grant, which is the one used for a degree granting institution, and the advancement grant, which is a non-degree grant, require Vermont residency as well. And the residency rules for the VSAC grants are very close, if not identical, to what the state colleges and the University of Vermont use. Which requires 1 year's residency, and that you can't move to Vermont solely for the purpose of attending college in order to establish that 1 year of residency. So turning to the handout, section 1 would amend a statute that's in the VSAC section of Title 16. Section 2 of the handout would amend to something that's in state colleges section, Title 16. Get to that in a moment. Section 1 dealing with section 2846 advancement grants has been in the VSAC statute for quite some time. They used to be called non-degree grants, and someone came up with catchier advancement grants about 7 years ago. But that's what it is. It's a non-degree grant. It helps students, conventional students and adult learners, either advance their employment prospects or their career within the current job. It also helps people pay for things like a commercial driver's license, which is very important for many, many jobs that we don't always think about. You look at 2846B, says advancement grants may be used at institutions that are not approved post-secondary education institutions. That's a defined term. And the approved post-secondary education institution is basically a Title IV, federally defined Title IV school that is a degree granting school. You can use an advancement grant at a degree granting school, but you probably won't do a lot of that, maybe more so in the summer program. Subsection C gets into the proposed changes in S-191 that adds a directive that when VSAC makes rules or establishes policies, et cetera, for advancement grants, they have to be consistent with subsection D, which was a new proposed section to the advancement grant statute. And the gist of D is that notwithstanding the residency requirement, certain persons who, and this is the VSAC suggested change language, just how we define who those people are in a way that VSAC and the schools are comfortable with, and which has some basis in law. It's when we agree on how to describe those people, just because they're not residents doesn't make them ineligible for the advancement grant. So this question first came up in the 2022 session in this committee, where the proposal was to, in the CCV statute, for a residency not to be of concern if you were some person who, I've reprinted that CCV section at the bottom of the page. One of those three statuses. And that has been something that CCV has been using in its programs following the 2022 session. So it would have been school year 2022, 2023, and 2022. The two cycles so far. And the VSAC concern was that the language in the bill as introduced, in S-191 as introduced, that contains a list of statuses, and it wasn't clear to VSAC at least where those statuses themselves would be defined. And in the spirit of not creating new definitions for the statute, we thought referring back to the CCV statutory definitions would be a good thing. So that's what VSAC is suggesting that the committee consider doing. VSAC has also been using those established definitions because at the same time, 2022 bill, S-283, VSAC agreed that for its regular grant program for CCV attendance, that the regular residency rules wouldn't apply if you were one of the refugee, parolee, or special immigrant status as defined in that statute. So that's the proposal in section 1 of what you have in front of you. Section 2, there's two things I want to cover. In 2022, that provision for VSAC with CCV and the regular incentive grant had a 1-year sunset on it that the legislation put in, which I think ended on June 30th of 2023. The volume, as I understand it, was not great. It took taking some time for this program to get grounded and started, but I think it makes sense. VSAC thinks it makes sense to extend that, keep that going, and maybe push it out another 3 years to give us 4 or 5 years of data and experience to be able to come back to the committee and report how it in fact has worked for its intended beneficiaries, and to share the data with you, and then consider either amending it, repealing it, or making it permanent. One of the things that I one of the hazards of rereading legislation that you've helped write is you find something you hadn't noticed was there. And in that section 2 language, there's a reference to 16 VSA sections 2841 to 2846. And that includes both the incentive grant, which is what this section was all about, S283, and the advancement grant. Since we're proposing to take care of the advancement grant in section 1, I don't think that the advancement grant piece needs to be included in section 2, and I'd be happy to propose some language to the committee to clean that up. Keep in mind that this again is still just for the Community College of Vermont, which is consistent with the testimony we gave in the committee heard.
Senator Gillis just
2 years
jump in.
Hi, thank you so much for your testimony. I was wondering.
Constituent of yours, correct?
Don't,
I'm all the way down in Shelburne.
Oh, you're sure.
Oh.
Yeah.
what was I gonna say? These are really helpful suggestions that you're presenting. In general, are you in support of the bill?
Yes.
Okay, great.
I would note, in anticipation of some later testimony, this morning I looked at it, Scott Giles, and I looked at the submission from the School of International Training, which I think you're taking up later this afternoon, and he probably has some comments on that. That I think raises an issue concerning the scope of the incentive grant provision, which in the S283 from 2 years ago, and in this draft from VSAC would continue to apply just to the Community College of Vermont. And we'd like to be part of a deeper discussion if there's going to be a suggestion of moving that out further, because that would be we'd like them to understand the funding significance of doing that, and we'd like VSAC to like a little more experience with this program, and perhaps Senator Hashim has more information about just and others may have about the volume of the new Vermonters who qualify as under the 3 prongs of the statute that was enacted 2 years ago.
I believe our next witness is actually going to cover that possibly,
Yeah.
so that might be helpful there.
So those are my comments. I'd be happy to answer questions now or come back at another time. And help the committee make this.
Yeah, no, thank you. Any immediate questions for, please?
So I just have just an observation. So I really appreciate the CCV language that, that's the first time that's come up. That's a good precedent. Okay. But what it doesn't have is language related to asylum seekers or special immigration visa holders. And I don't know if VSAC has a position on that, if that expands the pool too far, too fast, or if there's any kind of insight you could offer.
Well, the section 2's contains a cross reference to section 2185C, which does incorporate by reference these refugees under a USC 1101, parolees, and special immigrant status people. So that's embedded in CCV piece, right? It doesn't go beyond that, and there may be others who would suggest other types of new Americans, new Vermonters who are not included in that list of 3 things. I'm not an expert on the variety of that.
Yes, Senator Sheep.
Just one thing I want to ask, is there, just to confirm, is there anything in this policy idea that you're worried about that might run afoul of federal law in any way?
I'm not aware, but I hasten to add that I haven't really taken a deep dive on that. I think that work was done in connection with S-283, and the committee and the full body became comfortable that that wasn't happening, but maybe unless there's been some change in federal law in the last 2 years, wouldn't expect that to be.
Thank you,
Sir.
Senator Hashim, how do you feel about these initial edits?
I'm fine with it,
Okay.
and I think it's a good step forward to make it more refined.
Okay, great. And Tom, if you don't mind sticking around while we hear
Yeah, very well.
Ms. Sigda, please stay seated. Ms. Sigda, am I pronouncing your name correctly? Great,
Yes,
thank
you
you so much. Thank you so much for joining us. We are looking at S-191 and appreciate you coming in a little earlier and listening to some of the testimony. Please, eager to hear your thoughts.
Thank you. Hello, all. Thank you to the members of the Senate Committee on Education for welcoming me to your committee. My name is Mary Kay Sigda. I am the Senior Program Officer with World Learning and the School for International Training for our new Vermonter Education Program. Can you hear me okay? Okay,
Yes,
great.
beautifully.
It's an honor to testify before you today in strong support of S-191, an act relating to New American Advancement Grant applicants. On behalf of everyone working to support the resettlement of refugees in Southern Vermont, including the Ethiopian Community Development Council, so ECDC, the Brattleboro Development Credit Corporation, BDCC, Vermont Adult Learning, VAL. I want to begin by expressing our deep appreciation to Senator Hashim for his leadership on this issue. I also want to thank VSAC for being terrific partners over the last 6 months while we have continued to open our campus to refugees from around the world. In my role in addition to providing support for our partners at the Tutorial Center in Bennington, I spend 4 days a week at the Multicultural Center, MCC, in downtown Brattleboro, working directly with the teachers and a group of more than 55 refugees, or New Vermonters, as we call them, a group which is growing with each new set of arrivals. I observe the passion and yearning that these New Vermonters bring to the classroom in pursuit of additional English language and learning skills that they can use to further their own education and abilities to secure a good paying job. The New Vermonters I've been fortunate enough to know and work with have arrived in the United States after overcoming, as you know, unimaginable odds and horrendous experiences. They are incredibly hard workers who want to settle in and contribute to our communities and our local economies as quickly as they can. For context, some New Vermonters arrive in the United States not knowing how to read or write in their own native language, while others have advanced degrees from their own home country. Each deserves an opportunity to succeed. One such example is Najat from the Middle East. She arrived less than a year ago, speaks Arabic, but has no reading or writing skills. Today, she's writing the English alphabet, and she's speaking basic sentences about her family, thanks to her incredible patience and perseverance. Another example are 3 young Congolese men who were in their last semester at university when they were relocated. If VSAC grants were available to them, they could potentially continue some studies in civil, chemical, and electrical engineering, or in those fields, all fields Vermont needs experts in. Right now, VSAC resources are only available to support New Vermonters after they've been in the state for a year. This 1-year residency requirement significantly delays their access to resources and opportunities that will help them to connect with their new community and provide for their families. And other resources, such as those available to the State Refugee Coordinator, are stretched extraordinarily thin, as they must cover everything from case management to employment services, mental health, legal support, and some educational needs. The VSAC short-term advancement grants are therefore critical since they are the most flexible and readily accessible source of funding to support new Vermonters' ability to pursue further education and employment. Another example, Jorge from Latin America. He arrived less than 2 years ago and he didn't speak a word of English. Today, he's actually enrolled in our TOEFL exam preparation course so that he can apply for an associate's degree this fall. Sohaila from Afghanistan has been waiting 2 years to enroll in her master's degree program, and thanks to the VSAC, also the same VSAC advancement grants, she studied composition and research methods at CCV, and she's also enrolled in our TOEFL exam course. To give you a sense of the need for this legislation, just last year, Vermont welcomed and resettled approximately 500 refugees, about 2/3 of whom were adults. This means more than 330 refugees are likely still ineligible to access VSAC support and have had to wait most of the past year or most of this year coming up before being able to pursue additional education, continuing their career pathway and rebuilding their lives. As members of this committee are well aware, Southern Vermont has been hit especially hard by the consolidation of higher education during recent years. Adjusting these requirements to help new Vermonters pursue non-degree education and training opportunities would also have important economic benefits to the region, particularly by helping address workforce shortages. In fact, nearly all the refugees who have been welcomed to Southern Vermont over the last 2 years have chosen to stay in Vermont. And over 80% of those eligible for employment have found good paying jobs in 49 local businesses. They've earned an average hourly wage of $19.07, so $5.40 above the minimum wage, and have contributed over 3.7 million in annual taxable wages. I will close by pointing out that this issue is not going away. ECDC and UCRI anticipate resettling approximately 600 people in the state over the course of 2024. While not every adult will want or need to access the support from VSAC, the language learning and other training opportunities that the short-term advancement grant offers will be absolutely critical to helping new Vermonters settle and succeed in Vermont this year. From all of us at World Learning and the School for International Training, thank you very much for the opportunity to share our experiences supporting new Vermonters and letting us reiterate our strong support for the change proposed in S191. We also deeply appreciate VSAC's willingness to understand the experiences of new Vermonters and their efforts to find additional ways to support them. We look forward to continuing to partner with you all. Happy to answer any questions.
Yes, thank you so much. Any questions? I'm just want to make sure your senator doesn't have any specific questions. Senator, did you want to ask anything?
Not at the moment. I will have one follow-up question for you, and I imagine our assistant has your email address, and I'll send that
Okay.
along.
Okay,
Yeah, thank you for testifying.
Senator Weeks,
Actually, I have a question for.
sure.
Mr. Giles.
Mr. Little.
Mr. Little. From a VSAC perspective, are waivers or residency waivers available for those who are new Americans that have come in with via like the green card application? So they come in, they've done their processing outside the US. Now they're inside the US. If they came into Vermont, are they eligible? Is it a residency waiver?
If they became a resident for 12 months. That's the only residency requirement. So if
Right, that's not waived.
so that works, I guess you could say, for someone who comes into Vermont and is not yet ready to go into a non-degree program or into a degree training program because they're trying to get established and deal with maybe more urgent assimilation requirements and place to live and so forth. But as someone who is not on the list of statuses in section 2185C comes into Vermont, they would still be subject to the 12-month, 1 year waiting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, former chairman of House Judiciary. And thank you very much for joining us, Ms. Sigda. And we'll look forward to staying in touch. And I think we'll have another draft of this probably early next week.
All right, thanks very much, everyone. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Thank you. Morgan, thanks. Great to see you, Tom. Morgan, is the secretary and Ms. DeCarolis, are they available?
They should be here soon. I believe they'll be on Zoom.
Okay. Why don't we just take a quick break? I'm gonna check in